Ladies and gentlemen, peace does not arrive by accident. It does not land in your lap like a bird ready to sing just for you. Peace must be nurtured, grown, and chosen again and again, especially when the winds around you are wild and the voices are loud. And the truest seed of peace begins not in the mouths of others, but in the quiet place within you. That still, small place where no one else can reach unless you open the door. That is where self-mastery begins. To master yourself is not to be perfect. It is not to become so holy or stoic that nothing touches you. No, self-mastery is to know yourself so well that when something tries to shake your ground, you pause and remember. You are not your reaction. You are not the sudden flare of emotion. You are the one watching the fire, deciding whether to feed it or let it flicker out. You cannot control the world. People will say unkind things. They will misunderstand you, ignore your worth, interrupt your joy. They will arrive uninvited and bring their own brokenness, trying to leave it on your doorstep. But the question is not whether they will come. The question is, will you let them stay? Will you allow your spirit to be dragged into their storm? Or will you choose to remain still, rooted and whole? Self-mastery is choosing your inner peace over temporary satisfaction. Anger gives a quick heat, it flares, it roars, and it consumes. It feels powerful in the moment, like a declaration of worth. But it often leaves ashes where clarity and connection once lived. True mastery lies in recognizing that you always have a choice. The trigger is not the cause of your fire. The fire is yours, and if it is yours, then so is the power to put it out. You begin by noticing the rise in your chest, the tightness in your jaw, the words waiting to leap from your tongue. You pause and ask, is this worth my peace? Is this moment bigger than my joy? Will this matter tomorrow, next week, next year? When you begin to ask such questions, you take the reins back from impulse and place them in the hands of wisdom. Many people spend their lives waiting for others to change so they can be at peace. They believe that if their partner would just speak more kindly, or if their co-worker would stop interrupting, or if the stranger on the street would show some respect, then finally they could rest. But that is a fragile kind of peace, one that depends on others behaving right. A real and lasting peace, the kind that holds through storms, comes from mastering your own heart, not fixing the world. There is strength in restraint. There is bravery in choosing calm. There is power in knowing that what someone else says or does is a reflection of them, not a command for you to respond in kind. When you master yourself, you become unshakable, not because the world has grown softer, but because you have grown stronger. To never get angry or bothered is not to never feel those things. You are human. You will feel, but self-mastery means you do not live in those feelings. You feel them, acknowledge them, and let them pass. You do not build a home in resentment. You do not carry anger like armor. You understand it for what it is, a signal, not a sentence. A flare, not a foundation. In every moment, you are teaching others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. When you are calm in the face of chaos, when you are quiet in the face of provocation, when you choose dignity over reaction, you are showing the world that you belong to yourself. You are showing that your peace is not cheap and cannot be bought with a careless word or stolen with a dirty look. This is not easy. It is a lifelong practice, a steady walk with your own soul. But as you grow in mastery, you will notice something remarkable. The world does not change, but your experience of it does. The noise grows quieter, the offense grows smaller. The storms roll in, but you do not drown. You rise above, not because you are untouched, but because you are unshaken. And that, beloved, is the beginning of true peace. It starts not when others are kind, not when the day is perfect, but when you decide. No one gets to rule your spirit but you. Empathy is not a decoration for the heart. It is the doorway to understanding, and understanding is the soil where peace takes root. When we look at others through the clear lens of empathy, the harsh outlines of judgment begin to soften. The sharp edges of resentment dull. Suddenly, we are no longer looking at enemies or strangers, but fellow travelers, each bearing a weight we cannot fully see. To walk this world without getting angry or bothered, you must first train yourself to see beyond behavior. Yes, someone may snap at you. Someone may gossip, interrupt, belittle, or ignore, and the mind, left to itself, rushes to judgment. It wants to name the offense, write the story, and deliver the sentence. But the heart, the wise and listening heart, asks a different question. Why might they be hurting? What burden might they be carrying that caused their words to come out rough and cold? It is easy to judge what we don't understand. It is easy to label someone rude, selfish, arrogant, or cruel. But judgment is a shortcut. It spares us the work of compassion, of curiosity, of slowing down long enough to see the full picture. Empathy does not excuse poor behavior, but it explains it. And when you can see the roots, the branches no longer shock you. A tree that grew twisted from trauma cannot bear straight fruit overnight. Empathy is not weakness. It is not soft sentiment or blind tolerance. It is a deep strength, a kind of courage that allows you to keep your heart open in a world that so often tells you to close it. When you practice empathy, you are not saying, "This harm is acceptable." You are saying, "I choose not to let this harm turn me into someone I am not." That is a quiet rebellion against bitterness. That is power. Most people are not evil. They are wounded, misunderstood, afraid, lost, acting out of old stories written in childhood, or echoes of pain they never had the chance to heal. Their anger, their coldness, their indifference, these are often just armor. They are trying, in their own way, to survive. And when you realize that, truly realize it, you can look at them not with fury, but with a kind of gentle distance. You can say to yourself, "This is not about me." You can release the need to correct them or get even. You can choose to remain whole. There is something holy in remembering that every person you meet is carrying a history. The loud man at the store may be grieving a loss he hasn't spoken of. The impatient co-worker may go home to a silent house and wonder if they are loved. The rude driver may be racing toward a hospital or running from their own heartbreak. When you choose empathy, you are not pretending these things are always true, but you are giving yourself the gift of considering the possibility, and that possibility changes everything. You begin to realize that the world is not always fair, and people are not always kind, but you do not have to let that steal your grace. You begin to offer others what you would want offered to you on your worst day. Little patience, a little space, a little benefit of the doubt. And in doing so, you set yourself free from the prison of constant judgment, constant irritation, constant comparison. Empathy also builds bridges where there would otherwise be walls. When you take the time to understand someone, truly see them beyond the surface, you create space for connection. You find that what once felt like an attack is sometimes just an expression of someone else's confusion, sorrow, or fear. And in that moment, your response can heal instead of harm. That is the quiet work of peace. If you want to walk this world without being easily angered or disturbed, make empathy your companion. Carry it like water in your palm, carefully, intentionally. Offer it not just when it is easy, but especially when it is not. For it is in those hardest moments, when someone is at their worst, that your empathy has the greatest power to transform. Remember, when you look at someone and choose to see the human first, their struggle, their history, their wounds, you dissolve the illusion that you are separate. You see your shared humanity, and in that moment judgment fades and something softer takes its place. Something stronger, something like love. Silence is not weakness. It is not defeat. It is not the last breath of the unheard or the broken. No, silence, when chosen, is a crown of wisdom. It is the garment worn by those who have nothing to prove and no need to shout. When a person walks through fire without reaching for a torch, when they sit still in the storm without shouting back at the thunder, that is not surrender, it is mastery. A quiet power greater than rage. There will be times when the world tries to drag you into noise. Voices will rise, accusations will be thrown like stones, tempers will flare like wild winds. In those moments you will be tempted to answer back, to match volume with volume, energy with energy. But know this, anyone can yell, anyone can strike back. That takes no training, that takes no grace. But to choose silence when your pride is stung, to walk away when your name is dragged, to keep your peace when chaos claws at your door, that is the work of strength. Silence is often mistaken for surrender because we live in a world that celebrates reaction. We are told that the loudest voice wins, that the last word belongs to the strong. But strength has never been measured in decibels. Real strength is knowing that your peace is too precious to spend on every provocation. It is knowing that silence, when it rises from dignity and not fear, is louder than any insult hurled in the heat of the moment. To stay silent is not to say you are wrong. It is not to say you are small. It is to say, I choose not to descend into the dust. It is to say, I will not build my house on anger. When someone throws bitterness your way and you do not throw it back, you leave them standing in their own fire. And fire, left alone, burns itself out. But make no mistake, this kind of silence is not passive. It is not the silence of the silenced, the silence of the fearful. No, this silence is an act, a decision, a holding of your power instead of giving it away. It takes more strength to walk away from a fight than to win one. It takes more discipline to bite your tongue than to use it as a weapon. Silence is not the absence of power, it is the control of it. There are battles that are not worth fighting because they cost too much. They cost your peace, your energy, your focus, your joy, and for what? To be right, to be heard, to prove something to someone who may not even be listening. Every time you respond to nonsense, you validate it. Every time you answer disrespect, you bring it into your space. But silence is a door you can close. It is a shield you can raise. It is a message that says, you may come with fury, but you will not find a host here. In silence you find clarity. In quiet you find the space to choose your next move. A person ruled by impulse reacts. A person ruled by wisdom pauses, and in that pause is freedom. The freedom to choose peace over pride, calm over chaos, purpose over performance. Silence is not empty. It is full of choice. The most dangerous thing about noise is that it drowns out your own voice. When you are always reacting, always answering, always explaining, you begin to forget the sound of your own soul. Silence brings you back. It reminds you who you are, who you've always been, and who you do not need to become just to satisfy a moment of frustration. Let people misunderstand you, let them speak. Let them form opinions without all the pieces. That is not your business. Your business is your response. Your business is your inner world. And if that world is quiet, if it is peaceful, if it is strong, then the outside cannot shake you. They can call your silence weakness, but you will know it as power. When you walk away in silence, when you refuse to trade insults, when you let the storm rage while you remain still, you are not giving up. You are rising above. You are preserving your dignity. You are choosing not to be moved by things that do not matter in the long stretch of life. And that, my dear, is not surrender. That is grace. That is wisdom. That is freedom. Perspective is not just how you see the world. It is the lens through which you choose to live. It is the quiet architect of your peace or your pain. Two people can look at the same moment, the same offense, the same sharp word, and one can rise above it while the other falls into fury. The difference between them is not luck, nor power, nor intelligence. It is perspective. Perspective is the art of stepping back before you step in. It is the choice to look again, to look deeper, to see not just the surface of things, but the roots beneath them. When someone disrespects you, perspective reminds you, this may not be about you. When someone disappoints you, perspective says, look closer. This might be about what they haven't yet healed. And when anger begins to rise within you, perspective is the voice that asks, is this worth your peace? You see, we often carry a narrow lens, we make quick judgments, we assume the worst, we tell ourselves stories that feed the ego and starve the truth. Someone cuts us off in traffic, and we decide they are rude, careless, even dangerous. But we don't know. Perhaps they are rushing to a hospital, their eyes filled with tears. Or perhaps they are simply having a moment of thoughtlessness, just as we have had before. Without perspective, we carry every offense like a personal attack. With perspective, we realize much of what bothers us was never really meant for us at all. When we begin to shift how we see others, we also begin to shift how we see ourselves. We learn that what disturbs us in others often points to something unhealed in ourselves. If someone's arrogance bothers you deeply, ask yourself why. Is it that you fear being overlooked? If their silence feels like rejection, could it be that you are still seeking validation from those who were never able to give it? Perspective is not just about them, it is about you. It is the mirror that reflects your emotional wounds back to you, not to shame you, but to invite you to grow. Anger thrives in the absence of perspective. It needs a narrow, urgent view. It feeds on the belief that you have been wronged, that someone has stolen something from you. Your time, your dignity, your peace. But when you widen the lens, you often see there is nothing to steal that you don't willingly hand over. Your peace belongs to you. It cannot be taken, only surrendered. And when you see this, anger loses its grip. Perspective teaches patience. It allows you to breathe when others expect you to react. It gives you the grace to say, maybe they're doing the best they can. It gives you the strength to say, this moment doesn't define me. It helps you rise above insults because you recognize they are often projections of someone else's fear. It helps you forgive because you understand that people act from what they know. And many have never been taught how to love gently, speak kindly, or listen deeply. This is not about excusing cruelty. It is not about pretending hurt doesn't hurt. It is about giving yourself the power to not be ruled by it. When you shift your perspective, you are not saying, this didn't hurt. You are saying, I won't let this wound become the way I see the world. You are protecting the clarity of your heart, keeping your vision clean so that you do not walk through life reacting to shadows. Perspective allows you to turn conflict into curiosity. Instead of thinking, why are they like this? You begin to ask, what happened to them? You begin to see not just the behavior, but the story behind it. And when you can see someone's pain, even just a glimpse of it, the urgency to punish or correct often fades. What rises in its place is compassion, not pity, not passivity, but a soft, steady understanding that leads to better choices. Your peace depends on this, not on control, not on making people behave better, but on learning how to see better. Every day brings 100 small invitations to be angry, but with perspective, those invitations no longer feel so tempting. You can look at them and say, no thank you, I choose peace. And that is the gift of a shifted perspective. It frees you. It teaches you that you are not a victim of others' moods or mistakes. You are the guardian of your own mind. You choose what to magnify. You choose what story to tell. And if you choose well, you can walk through this world, calm, rooted, and rarely bothered, not because life is perfect, but because you have learned to see it through the eyes of wisdom. To live unbothered is not to live untouched. It is to know where you end and another begins. It is to draw a line, not in anger, but in honor. Boundaries are not walls built from bitterness. They are gates of grace, opened and closed by choice. When you learn to set boundaries, you are not shutting people out. You are inviting yourself in. You are declaring with quiet power that your peace is sacred ground. Boundaries are acts of self-respect. They are the language of those who have learned to value their time, their energy, and their emotional well-being. When you speak your boundary, you are not asking permission. You are naming your limits with love. Love for yourself, love for your growth, and yes, even love for others, because healthy relationships cannot survive without truth, and there is no truth without boundaries. You cannot stop people from crossing lines they do not know exist. You must first draw them clearly. You must say, "This is what I can give," and "This is what I cannot hold." You must be brave enough to speak when something does not feel right. Not with fury, not with shame, but with the steady calm of someone who knows their worth. For too long we are taught that saying no is selfish, that turning away is unkind. But boundaries are not the opposite of kindness. They are its foundation. You cannot pour endlessly and call it love. You cannot break yourself and call it service. There will be those who do not like your boundaries. Let them. There will be those who say you've changed. Let them speak. Growth is not meant to please. It is meant to free. And freedom is not always comfortable for those who benefited from your silence. But do not let their discomfort send you back into a life that kept you tired, resentful, or confused. A boundary is not cruelty. It is clarity, and clarity is a gift. Peace cannot survive where your boundaries are not respected. If you let every voice in, if you accept every invitation to conflict, if you carry every guilt that is handed to you, you will drown in noise. And you will mistake exhaustion for compassion. But you are not here to be a martyr to other people's chaos. You are here to live with intention, with grace, with space to breathe. That space is created by the boundaries you keep. People will test them, not always maliciously, sometimes simply because they are used to the older version of you. The one who said yes out of habit, who apologized for having needs, who over-explained and overgave. When you begin to stand firm, some may feel offended. Let that offense stay where it belongs, with them. You are not responsible for their reaction. You are responsible for your energy, for your peace, for your own becoming. It is a strange strength, this setting of boundaries, not loud, not showy, but firm. It is the strength to leave a conversation that disrespects your values, to stop explaining yourself to people determined to misunderstand you, to say no without dressing it up in excuses, to walk away when staying would cost you more than it's worth. That strength is earned through self-awareness, through choosing, day after day, not to abandon yourself for the comfort of others. Let your boundaries be rooted in love, not fear. Do not set them as weapons, but as guides. You are not trying to control others. You are choosing how you will engage with them. That is a difference of spirit. It turns conflict into clarity, distance into dignity. It teaches others how to treat you, but more than that, it teaches you how to treat yourself. Some boundaries are quiet, a pause before answering, a change in the subject, a decision not to attend. Some are spoken, a sentence, a firm no, thank you, a clear this doesn't work for me, and some are simply lived, through the way you carry yourself, the way you protect your mornings, your rest, your joy. You don't always have to explain them. You just have to honor them. To live without being constantly angry or bothered, you must stop giving pieces of yourself to everyone who reaches. Your time, your peace, your attention, they are precious. Not because they are scarce, but because they are yours. Boundaries are how you honor that truth. They are how you say, "I will meet you where love lives, but I will not follow you into places where I disappear." And when you learn to live with that kind of integrity, you will find something beautiful waiting. Stillness. A kind of peace that does not need to be guarded because it has already been claimed. A kind of freedom that does not come from being untouched, but from being untangled. That is the quiet power of boundaries. That is the soft strength of self-respect. Mastery over reaction is not something you inherit. It is something you practice moment by moment, breath by breath, until it becomes part of your nature. It is the quiet victory of a person who has learned to sit with their own storms before letting lightning strike the world. It is a discipline, not a denial. It does not mean you do not feel. It means you do not let your feelings drag you by the throat. To master your reaction is to master your self-respect, your clarity, your very power. In every heated moment there is a small space, an opening wide enough to change everything. That space is the difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is immediate, emotional, and often regrettable. It is the voice of the wound, not the voice of the wisdom. Reaction lashes out to protect the ego, to prove something, to win something. But response is the voice of a deeper self, a truer self. It comes not from fear or pride, but from peace. We live in a world that tempts us to react constantly. A careless word, an impatient glance, an offensive opinion, a moment of rudeness, each one an invitation to anger. But mastery is the power to decline that invitation, to say, "Not today. I see what this is, and I will not feed it." That refusal is not weakness. It is command. It is sovereignty over your emotions, a steady hand on the wheel when others try to drive you off course. You are not obligated to engage with every provocation. You do not have to raise your voice because someone else has lost control of theirs. You do not need to defend your worth when someone questions it. There is power in restraint, in pausing, in letting the moment pass through you without letting it shake you. That does not mean you suppress the truth. It means you elevate it. You speak when the words are not poisoned by heat, when your breath has caught up with your soul. It takes courage to wait, to let the first emotion settle like dust before you decide what to do. Reaction wants to be first. It pushes you to interrupt, to post, to argue, to strike back. But mastery lives in the second thought, the deeper breath, the longer silence. There is nothing passive about this kind of patience. It is an active strength, a rootedness that cannot be knocked over by someone else's storm. Some people may think you are unaffected, that you do not care. Let them. There is no need to prove how deeply you feel. Your restraint is not evidence of indifference. It is evidence of maturity. The deeper you know yourself, the less you need to prove. And the less you need to prove, the freer you become from other people's chaos. You begin to see conflict not as a battlefield, but as a mirror. A place to see what still triggers you, what still holds power over your peace. Mastery over reaction means asking yourself the right questions in hard moments. Is this worth my energy? What part of me is feeling attacked? Is this even about me? Will this matter tomorrow, next week, next year? These questions are not delays. They are doorways. They lead you back to the part of you that can respond from grace, from calm, from vision rather than vengeance. When you learn to pause, you learn to choose, and choice is the birthplace of freedom. This kind of emotional discipline is a lifelong lesson. You will get it wrong. You will snap. You will raise your voice. You will send the message too soon, and when you do, forgive yourself, then return to the practice. Breathe deeper next time. Listen longer. Wait until you've come home to yourself before you speak to someone else. Progress is not perfection. It is presence, staying present enough with yourself to make a better choice again and again. To master your reactions is not to become emotionless. It is to become emotionally intelligent. It is to feel everything and still choose your words carefully. It is to recognize your anger without becoming its servant. It is to sit in discomfort without needing to throw it at someone else. That is real power. That is what separates a moment of conflict from a lifetime of regret. And when you begin to live from this place of deep calm and chosen response, you will find that fewer things shake you. Not because the world is quieter, but because you are. You will move through noise without becoming noisy. You will hear insults without swallowing them. You will witness chaos and choose not to be part of it. Thanks for watching.